Ever wonder what would happen if your shy, mild-mannered self suddenly turned into a flirtatious risk-taker who doesn't think twice about blowing cash or charming strangers? Well, back in 1953, British audiences were asking the same question through fits of laughter thanks to Will Any Gentleman, a charmingly chaotic comedy that blended hypnosis, mistaken identity, and good old-fashioned British wit.
And unpleasant with a black briefcase.
Is he in uniform?
Oh no, sir, he's wearing a trilby hat.
Oh, that sounds nasty.
Now let's set the stage, literally. Meet Henry Sterling, played to perfection by George Cole. He's a timid bank clerk, the kind of man who blends into wallpaper. You know the type, polite, anxious, permanently apologetic. His life is as routine as clockwork, until one fateful night at a music hall flips everything upside down. Henry heads there to settle a debt for his brother Charlie, played by a young, delightfully cheeky John Pertwee.
I don't care who it's for. You're not to borrow it from Henry.
You trying to kill me?
Yes, that John Pertwee, who'd later become the third Doctor in Doctor Who. Charlie's a charming scoundrel, the polar opposite of Henry, and his bad checks are what land Henry in trouble in the first place.
I can explain everything.
There's nothing you couldn't explain.
While at the theatre, Henry becomes an unexpected volunteer for a stage hypnotist.
Oh, you are not cross with my angel, eh?
None other than the great Mendoza, played with mysterious flair by Alan Badel.
Play the naughty boy, huh? Now you are afraid for your respectabilities, is that it?
And here's where things start to unravel. Under Mendoza's hypnotic spell, Henry's repressed personality breaks free. Gone is the bashful clerk. In his place is a swaggering, free-spending flirt who starts living like there's no tomorrow.
Toss you, double or quits.
It's a bet, you're on. You call to me.
Hit.
You're wrong, you know. It's tails.
The problem? Henry has no idea this alter ego exists. When he snaps back to his normal self, he's confused, broke, and in serious trouble. This duality leads to some of the film's most hilarious and memorable scenes.
I don't know how to express my remorse, sir.
There's Henry charming a pair of blondes, one played by Lucy Griffiths, the other by Diana Hope, despite normally being terrified of women. There's his bold confrontation with his overbearing mother-in-law, Mrs. Whittle, played by Heather Thatcher,
There's altogether too much of you. Get out of my house.
which ends with him calling her a tyrannical old bat. Bold words for a man who usually gets tongue-tied asking for sugar in his tea. Then there's the fallout. His wife Florence, played by Veronica Hurst, is understandably distraught and walks out.
Mr. Jackson calls for that £300. You can tell him to come to me for it.
His employer starts asking questions when £300 goes missing, and, soon enough, the law gets involved. Enter William Hartnell, the future First Doctor, here playing the gruff and no-nonsense Detective Inspector Martin.
Who are you?
I'm Detective Inspector Martin.
Amidst all the chaos, it's Charlie who finally steps up.
Found out what happened to you.
Realising what's happened,
Don't you remember him getting you onto that stage? Stage? Yeah.
he tracks down Mendoza to reverse the hypnosis
Still, he's sending Mendoza around to depixelate you and then everything will be all right.
and bring his brother back to normal. It's one of those satisfying conclusions that wraps the comedy with a neat little bow, without skimping on the madcap energy. Behind the scenes, the film was shot primarily at Pinewood Studios, the iconic British studio that gave us everything from early Carry-On films to James Bond. That explains the slick production quality and the deep bench of comedic talent. You'll spot Joan Sims in a small but scene-stealing role as Beryl. Sid James pops up as Mr. Hobson, bringing that classic Sid James smirk and timing. Even Peter Butterworth has a cameo as the theatre's stage manager. Yep, another future Carry-On star. Will Any Gentleman was directed by Michael Anderson, a name you might recognise from more serious films like The Dam Busters and later Logan's Run. It's fascinating to see his touch here, bringing pace and rhythm to a story that could have easily descended into slapstick mess, but instead stays sharp and surprisingly tight for a comedy of its time.
I only made a little slip that blowed. You really stirred my cup of bitterness with the sword of Damocles.
As for box office, the film was a modest success in the UK. It wasn't a blockbuster, but it did respectable numbers, especially with George Cole's rising star power. He'd later become a British icon in St Trinian's and Minder.
Henry, wake up! Wake up, Henry!
What?
Critics at the time gave it a polite nod, rather than a standing ovation.
Surrounded by a lot of incompetent idiots. Somebody's going to pay for this.
The Times called it pleasantly absurd, while Kine Weekly praised Cole's performance, but thought the film leaned too heavily on farce. But here's the thing. Will Any Gentleman may not have broken records, but it's aged like a fine cup of tea. It's a time capsule of 1950s Britain, the stiff upper lip world colliding with the unpredictability of post-war change. Watching Henry transform under hypnosis feels symbolic of a society breaking free from old norms.
Johnny, did I say all that? Yes. Did you think she heard me? And how?
Though probably unintentionally. And let's not forget, it's just a good laugh. The dialogue crackles.
Are you sure this is Mendoza's room? Well, of course I am. He's got his name on the door, hasn't he?
The performances are top-notch, and it's got that cosy British comedy charm that makes it perfect for a rainy afternoon watch. So, if you've never seen Will Any Gentleman, it's high time you gave it a spin. Whether you're a fan of classic comedies, vintage British cinema, or just want to see George Cole absolutely nailing a dual personality performance, this one's worth your attention. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that like button if you love hidden gems from the golden age of cinema. Subscribe for more deep dives into films you should know about. And hey, if you ever find yourself at a music hall with a stage hypnotist, maybe sit that one out.
What's the matter? £300. And that means I put my sandwiches in the safe.